Joining us, he is the founder, the godfather of weather, Gary Lezak, also our chief meteorologist, Dean Wysocki, meteorologist Justin Storm, and Bridget Riedel, our ag director extraordinaire, who will be down here in Orlando tomorrow with what, 10,000 more people? Just what we need.
Right.
10,000 more people on the roads down here.
They're not all bringing their pickup trucks, though, so it's just going to be small cars and shuttles everywhere, Jay.
Those are even worse. Let's grab, I believe Grant is next. Grant, you're up on the Jay Thomas Show in the spring. Outlook Special.
Hey, thanks, Jay. Hey, as you guys know, North Dakota, we're one of the most inventing states in the union. We have a guy named Pat Sweeney who invented the fairy dust system it's called cloud seeding. Can they use the LRC and Pat Sweeney's plan to make it rain where there's predicted droughts and change the weather patterns to improve the rain patterns? And one other question, if the LRC is an existing thing, that means global warming is no such thing, right?
Yeah, buddy, I love this guy. Yes. Yeah, that religion called global warming.
Oh, yeah. My. So how do we respond to that, guys?
You unequivocally tell me global warming doesn't exist.
No, we can't. We can't unequivocally do that. So
okay, so cloud seeding.
Right now.
Do you want me to help you with
cloud
that, Gary?
seeding? I can say cloud seeding is not real. So, what do you think?
Okay, so whether it's real or not, that's not where I was going to go with it. According to our caller, he was asking, okay, because there is something called cloud seeding, can we use the LRC in conjunction with that? And my response to it would be, if you are using that for weather patterns, you know when there will be dry patterns. So we know that the last couple of years we've had dry Augusts. Could we resort to using cloud seeding in specific areas to try to overcome that lack of rainfall? Sure, there we could. With the validity of cloud seeding, hey, that's a whole nother show that Jay's going to want to do. But,
no, I've done that before, boy. That can of worms, you can't close that.
There you go. But I would look at it as drought stress times, whether or not we could affect that.
Right. If the thing is, let's say cloud seeding is possible. Let's just say it is. And you go in, you have a thunderstorm, and you have some clouds building up, and you manipulate it. You may end up manipulating one storm, and then another one forms somewhere else. So if there's a way to, maybe affect a tornado, you kill a thunderstorm that's producing a tornado, and it misses that town, but then maybe it's going to hit another town over. So you have to be careful about trying to manipulate Mother Nature and the weather. You just have to let it do what it's going to do, and then we can predict what it's going to do. We can prepare for it. That's what the LRC does. It allows us to prepare for that.
That's a great explanation, Gary. And Bridget, I believe you've got a boatload of agricultural email questions.
Okay, it's like I am running a mission control over here between all of the things that people are sending me and doing. Okay, so one question that I got quite some time ago, and this is from a farmer in western Cass County. He said, in the 2023 storm systems that we're going to be looking at, and we will map those out, is there a higher probability of hail with any of those systems? Is that something that we can tell folks as we walk through the calendar, this storm looks like it has the propensity for hail or not? Can we do that?
Yeah, when you look at the LRC, we have a product from Weather 2020. You can go to weather2020.com or join our Substack account, weather2020.substack.com. And what was the question again, Bridget?
Okay, so when you look at the storms, you overlay what the calendar is going to look like. Can we judge the propensity for hail in any of those storms?
Right. Hail is going to be very difficult to be predicted by the LRC. Now, with severe weather outbreaks, and Justin can talk to this one probably, and Dean, last year, a year ago in December, we had the Mayfield, Kentucky tornado on December the 10th. That produced an EF4 tornado that killed 56 people in Mayfield, and 90 people were killed in that tornado outbreak. The pattern that produced that severe weather outbreak cycled back through right on schedule around April 13th. We predicted it would be around April 13th to 16th, and it happened. So the LRC is able to predict that we will have a severe weather outbreak, which may still produce hail, thunderstorms with hail and large hail. But during the summer, it becomes a little more arbitrary when these thunderstorms that produce large hail that maybe aren't on a big, huge, broad predictor like the LRC. So those small individual hailstorms, less likely to be predictable, but the big outbreaks are predictable.
Let's grab Justin in Fargo. Justin, you're up on the Jay Thomas Show on the Spring Outlook Special.
Hi, how are you doing?
Good.
I just had a comment. So visiting the Fargo Air Museum, there's a exhibit there that talks about cloud seedings. So I'm just curious, the comment about cloud seeding not being real, is that a phony exhibit? It talked about cloud seeding a certain weather system that came through North Dakota and actually produced undesirable results and ended up in tornadoes in southern Minnesota. I can't give you the time specifics, but there was an actual exhibit at the Fargo Air Museum about that.
I'm sure there is something to that, guys. As you said, this is a whole other show. I'm not an expert on that. I do think that there's chemicals that can be released inside clouds that could cause some expansion or decrease in the formation of thunderstorms and maybe increase or decrease rain. It is a possibility. My personal feeling is that it's a very difficult concept to produce significant enough results. So is it something that could be discussed and worked on in years to come? I'm sure, but that's as much as I know about it.
Thanks, Justin.
Gotcha.
Appreciate the call, brother. Appreciate it, man.
And Gary, let's go back to an example of how the LRC works. We had an email here saying, I was down in Minneapolis, and this was recently, their last big snow, that record snow that hit Minneapolis. And I know you sent us some graphics. Michael, if you can pull up the graphics of that Minneapolis snow. And this is kind of how the LRC works. So the most recent snowstorm, the record-setting one in Minneapolis that hit on the 21st through the 23rd, step us through that, Gary, and how that was already predicted.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Right now, we're looking at a map here. If you're watching us on the Facebook feed, Facebook Live, and if you're in Kansas City, send us some questions. Call in. I'd love to hear from you guys too. But you can see, look at that 130 to 150% above average rainfall. This is a prediction. I just called this up on our model from March 15th to May 31st. So this is March, April, May rainfall, 130 to 150% predicted by our model. And the LRC model, which is patent pending, is on a roll. It predicted out west in California, the storm out there. I just put that on our Substack. And this shows that. So what happened, the pattern's repeating this year. So the mayor of Minneapolis, Jacob Frey, I believe is that guy's name.
Yep.
He was in a panic. Okay, he was like, oh my gosh, there's a snowstorm coming. First of all, we live in Kansas City down here, okay? We don't have snowstorms, and I thought you guys were used to snowstorms, but whatever. You guys are in a panic. It's one day away from a snowstorm, but he didn't have one day to prepare for that storm. He had 50 days to prepare for that storm. This week's LRC is cycling at close to that 7-week range. All right, so what happened? When he was panicking, I didn't even know. I wasn't sure what had happened up in Minneapolis. So I went and looked up Minneapolis, and February 21st, 22nd, 23rd, they just had 13.1 inches of snow, or 13.4, something like that. It was the 23rd biggest storm in their history. So the mayor calling it an historic snowstorm is correct. It's the 23rd biggest one in their history. What happened 50 days earlier? Do you guys know?
Another historic.
Another one. Yep.
A bigger one. They already had what was called the big mess, 15.1 inches of snow. That happened on January 2nd to 5th. While that was hitting Minneapolis on January 2nd to 5th, a massive storm was coming into California. They were about to get blasted. What happened after the February 21st to 23rd storm? A massive storm comes into California again. Proof of the LRC right there.
Yeah.
And mark your calendars, April 11th through 14th. That's 50 days later. That same system will be scooting. Now, Gary, what are the chances with the jet stream lifting north that maybe that storm catches North Dakota instead of Minnesota?
Hey. I got a calendar of travel over here. Knock that off.
You cancel those dates.
Yeah. I think for the April version, it's probably going to continue to just barely miss you. See, here's that graphic. If you're watching your screen now, there's that 14th biggest snowstorm and 23rd biggest snowstorm. They're both related to the LRC. It's not a coincidence that they had two of their biggest snowstorms this year in this year's pattern. And in the upper right, I did a whole case study of this. And you can see that there's the two snowstorms. I said a call for action. We obviously know that June, July, and September versions are not going to produce snow. Are we out of time?
Yep.
Yeah, we got to take a break. When we come back, more with our
music.
guests. And also back to your phone calls. Kevin, hang on, you're coming up. This is the Spring Summer Outlook on. What do you guys want to hit next? What do you want to hit next? What do you want to do?
Oh, pick me. I
Bridget.
got stuff.
Bridget's got quite a few
Bridget's got a
emails.
list over here. Okay, as the Southwest United States, we've gone from last summer of 65% drought across the U.S. down to 40% drought status. What do we think the next level will be with the rain and so forth that's going to be coming over the next few months? Do we foresee this going from a 40% drought status across the U.S. down somewhere around 20? What do we think? Anybody?
So that was down in the Southwest.
Well, the majority has been in the Southwest. You know, if you think about Panhandle, Nebraska, Kansas, Texas, New Mexico. But basically this question was, will we continue to see a shrink on what's currently 40% of the U.S. in a drought status, or where do we think it's going to go?
Yeah, one of the biggest drought areas in California has been shrinking, obviously, and they're getting another storm this week. It's going to be significant. You know, the western half of the country is a little more arid region anyway. So as you get east of the Sierra Nevada mountains to the Rockies, it's a dry region anyway, so it's hard for droughts to be alleviated. The one concern area, and a lot of people near where I live here in Kansas City, is southwest Kansas that continues to be in a significant, if not a serious drought. And droughts are either expanding or they are contracting, all right? This year's drought is contracting at this moment. That usually doesn't immediately start expanding. So that's a good sign, something to watch over the next few weeks as we move into the spring, summer, and summer months. The wild card will be the summer, but spring looks like it's going to be wet. So that drought is going to continue to contract towards southwest Kansas. The La Nina, the cooling of the tropical Pacific Ocean, that has faded, is now gone. And so we are going to neutral conditions, and next winter might be an El Nino, and that will be something we will discuss next winter as the new LRC sets up. Remember, Enzo is just a influence.
And Gary, we had a couple of our guests that we had on over this last week. They're farm and ranch down in the Texas Panhandle,
Correct,
right?
Spearman, Texas.
And they've undergone just severe drought down there. Now they've got the Ogallala Aquifer there that they can irrigate a little bit from.
Correct.
The what?
Ogallala.
Ogallala.
Wow. Wow. Who are you trying to impress, Wysocki? Man.
Well,
I was
Wow.
like,
he
how did
can't
know
spell
that?
it. I mean, he can say it, but he can't spell it.
I couldn't even say it.
So, Gary, what are the chances? I mean, I know we were showing the graphic there of how western Kansas just can't break out of that drought, which really extends down into the Texas-Oklahoma Panhandle. Any relief from the LRC that you can see for those areas as we head into spring and summer?
Something to monitor is, even though our LRC model says it will continue to be dry down there in a smaller area, as the La Nina has ended, if there's a big influence on the pattern, it is La Nina. I don't like La Nina because it pushes precipitation off to the east most often. That's one of the reasons why North Dakota sometimes is dry during La Nina, but it isn't now this year and last year. Why? Because the LRC set up favorably for you guys to have precipitation. It has not set up favorably for southwestern Kansas, so that's still a concern. But with La Nina fading, I'm expecting the precipitation patterns to shift west. The same pattern will continue, but slight difference. That influence from La Nina fading may bring heavy precipitation towards western Kansas in the second half of spring. Second half of spring I'm expecting the southwestern Kansas drought to continue to shrink, and maybe it'll be beneficial for the wheat crop out there.
So one more thing, we had someone called in at the very start asking about flood potential and risk, and I went ahead and brought up the NDON, North Dakota Agricultural Weather Network, looking at what we're doing for soil temperatures, and that may help us here a little bit. At a 4-inch soil temp in Cass County, we are looking at temperatures ranging from 28 to 31 degrees.
Wow.
So our ground is warm.
Wow.
There's not a lot of frost. So the potential for this to absorb into our soil is, granted, it can only go so far, right? Our soil our absorption rates are only so high with saturated soils, but that could reduce some of our risk of flooding, because we will indeed have that go into the soil profile instead of just moving off as runoff on frozen ground. So just to recap there.
How saturated did we go? Because didn't we go in kind of dry this fall?
We weren't bad.
Okay.
I would say that, we had a good harvest and folks were able to get the crop off. I don't recall us having some late major rainstorms. Justin, do you?
We went in a little dry at the end of summer.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're okay, I think.
Okay. All right.
So that's going to help us.
All right, 701-293-9000. Email, it is studio at WDAYradionow.com, and we will get to, I'm going to let Gary and crew, they will get to, because I know you're all itching. You want to know, okay, what do we got coming up for spring? What's our summer look like? Do we get a spring this year? Last year we really, we had a late spring, that's for sure. So we are going to break. All right, Dean, I heard you have got a stack of emails. Oh, yeah. let me grab Mark first in Fargo,
sure.
and then we'll get to your emails. Hey, Mark, you're up on a Jay Thomas show on the Spring Outlook Special.
Hello.
Hey.
I have a question. I want to know. I'm going to be going down to the Masters, April 5th. I want to know what the weather's going to be like there.
Forget it. Just forget it.
Here, let me call it up. Just a second. Hold on. So what are the dates? April 5th, right?
Yeah.
So I got to put it in. I'm putting the inputs into the LRC model. And I'll do April 1st to April 10th. Just get that whole week. Apply. Now I've got to go to Augusta, Georgia. And here's what my model shows. Hold on a second. There we go.
Okay.
That's good. Apply. All right. This is live radio. Okay.
Yeah.
And
write this
Facebook,
down, everybody.
Here we go. So here, what happened in 2014, just a little history of predicting for the Masters. Back in 2014, the year we predicted that East Rutherford, New Jersey, for the Super Bowl outdoors would be beautiful, 55 degrees, and it was 55 degrees for the Denver-Seattle game where Seattle won that Super Bowl in East Rutherford, New Jersey. We also issued a 60-day outlook for the Masters that year, and we predicted rain in the early rounds. Now this shows, I'm looking at my model for this year, it has rain, that's in southeast Georgia. So that's Augusta, isn't it? Southeast Georgia? Yeah. So
it is.
Right.
It has rain April 1st, 2nd, 3rd. It has rain the 2nd, the 3rd, the 4th of April. Just listen to this. 2nd, 3rd, and 4th of April. And then it's dry on the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th. How about that?
The Gulf gods are shining.
Yeah.
What's the temp
it says temperatures about 75 to 80 degrees to 74 to 80 degrees.
Nice.
How about that?
So
there's your forecast
this
for
is
the Masters.
this is number one on my bucket list, so that couldn't be any better to be 75 to 80 degrees.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome, Mark. Have fun.
Yep. Thank you.
Appreciate the phone call. And in the 4 o'clock hour, we'll get to your personal, hey, this date. And I know, Dean, you've got a lot of those emails.
Yeah.
We're not blowing those off, but we want to save those for the last hour.
We'll save those for the last least hour, maybe half hour. There's tons of specific dates, weddings, all that stuff. So we'll take care of that. Gary, let's start to dive in now to what we can expect here.
Is this it?
Well, this is part of it. Yeah. What we can expect here in the northern plains, North, South Dakota, Minnesota, as we head into April, as we head into May, and the early part of summer. I know it looked like our last potential freeze up here was going to be sometime around the middle of April, if I'm not mistaken. And then finally, temperatures will start to rebound.
Yes, I agree. Here's I'm just calling up North Dakota on the model, and it's fascinating as we look at. That's just for the see the last color changed all my dates on here. Just a second. I'm here from March 15th to May 31st. And
now, Gary, when you're doing North Dakota, can we include Minnesota in this, or is that completely different? Because our listening range is very vast into both states.
I will add Minnesota right now. It's that easy. So
okay.
So looking at this for the first half of spring, really from March 15th to April to May 31st. So from March 15th to May 31st, it's the northwestern corner of Minnesota. The northwestern corner of Minnesota is showing 90% to 100% of average rainfall. There's only one spot over all of North Dakota and Minnesota that is predicted by the LRC model to have even slightly below average rainfall. The rest of North Dakota and Minnesota is predicted to have above average rainfall and still some snow as we move in through April. Is for I know Jay hates that. I would love it. But Minneapolis is still the center where it's 150% of average rainfall. And how much is that? That shows 12.3 inches liquid in Minneapolis, Twin Cities area, whereas North Dakota ranges from 5.6 inches of rain near the U.S.-Canada border to 7 inches of rain in the southwestern part of North Dakota and 7.8 inches in southeastern North Dakota.
And that's through what time period, Gary?
That's from now through May 31st. I don't know, Justin's probably doing some analysis of that as well. And it does show a last freeze, maybe it could be April 20th to May 1st. It could be
that late. So. Okay.
Okay,
wow.
And I just
maybe
I'm out of here. I gotta go.
Yeah,
I'm out of here. I'm done with you guys.
And I just want to remind folks, when you say average rainfall, we're talking on a 30-year average, correct? So
that's correct.
We take the 90s into that account and bring it forward. Okay.
And it looked
the 90 for the last 30 years.
And it looked like, Michael, can you pull that graphic up of the one we just had up? That's the one. So it looks like it's kind of stretching this out towards the rest of the spring and summer. It looks like that it's like you said, Gary, that sweet spot from north central, northeastern Nebraska all the way up through the Twin Cities and into northeastern parts of Minnesota. Those are the heaviest areas of rainfall all the way through the summer and even into or through spring and into summer. And then temperature-wise, on that graph in the upper left there, below normal or near normal to below normal temperatures out in the central and western parts of the Dakotas, it looks like, as well.
Right. Remember, the weather pattern is cycling, everyone. And by the way, some of these graphics you're seeing, go join right now, weather2020.substack.com. weather2020.substack.com. It's only $300 per farmer for everyone who joins now. And if you let me know what county you're in, I will get that forecast for your county. I'll either email it to you or put it on that Substack account. So that's weather2020.substack.com.
Gary, I want to point out, not just farmers, but for those in agribusiness, if you are selling crop insurance, if you sell crop inputs, if you're an equipment manufacturer, these are also agribusinesses that can participate in that subscription to the LRC.
Yes.
It's not just about farmers,
everyone.
It's those who deal with the ag industry overall.
Mm-hmm.
And storm chasers and weather enthusiasts too.
Right.
Yeah.
Let me hold on real quick. I've got a ton of people that are private messaging me on Facebook questions. Folks, I can't access those because I'm using my phone. to do this, to do the video side of this. So you're going to have to send them to studio@wdayradionow.com. I can't get in and access them right now, and I apologize for that.
Right. I was going to add on to that, Michael, if you want to throw that graphic back up of the upper Midwest, the last graphic that we were just looking at there, you're seeing all those graphs at the bottom, and some people might not know how to interpret that. And what's going on with those graphs, it's showing highs and lows, expected temperatures, as well as expected precip in the form of a percentage. That's over the entire area that is highlighted in those reds and browns, greens and blues. So that's not one specific area. That's the whole area there averaged out. So when you see that it says, a specific temperature, that's the average of that area, not necessarily the temperature it's going to be in Fargo on that date. And then each one of those spikes in the bottom right, that's when we're expecting a more wet storm system to be pushing through the area. So the lower spikes are usually dry weeks. Those spikes that shoot way up, that's when we're expecting those storm systems. And we'll get a little more in depth with when we're expecting those coming up here in just a bit.
Let me grab Dean here. Let me grab Dean here up in Portland, North Dakota. Hey, Dean, you're up on the Jay Thomas Show on the Spring Outlook Special.
Yeah, I was just curious about, I live between Grand Forks and Fargo, and the precipitation in April, do you have any idea how many inches of rain or approximate during April?
Justin, can you pop up that one graphic that I just sent you earlier? I think I did March through May that would really showcase that. I don't know. Did you have that, Dean? Do you have that?
Let me.
It was one of those two charts I gave you.
Michael, those are the ones that I just emailed you just about a half hour ago. Michael, those are the new ones. If you can pull that up, it goes all the way through May.
See if you can.
It's a blue graph of temperature spikes or precip spikes.
And while we're calling that up, see if you can call that up. If you can't, remember what happened last year. Justin and Dean probably can attest to this.
There we go.
The LRC is just really good all the way through May and June. And then July and August are going to be a wild card. But here, what you're looking at, this is for North Dakota area, and you can see that there's storm systems forecast. When it goes above 100, those are rain days. And when it's below 100, those are dry days. So April, you can see, has some spikes there of storm systems. So April's going to be fairly wet, maybe not quite as much as last year when you had these major blizzards. Those likely will track just southeast of you again. So each one of those spikes is showing a significant storm coming across. So one of them is around April 6th to 10th. It looks like another one towards the middle of April, and another one at the end of April. Those are the storm systems we're tracking.
Oh, okay. Well, last year, yes, the snow melt didn't cause flooding. I lived by the river, but then we had, 3 inches of rain.
Right.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then it was the major flood that was coming through.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, Dean, I hope that helps you out. Appreciate the phone call. Thank you for listening to the Jay Thomas Show on the Spring Outlook Special, 701-293-9000. Our email studio at wdayradionow.com. All right, guys, we've got about, I'm guessing probably about 30 seconds before we go to break. What are we going to hit when we come back?
Well, we've got a couple of emails here. Now, again, if you emailed us on specific dates, if we don't get it fit into the show here, I've got the emails. Either myself or Justin will personally email you back on your specific dates if we can't get to them. So, but let's hold those off until the last hour. When we come back, let's hit on.
Can we do the Outlook?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll do.
Yeah, let's do the
We'll
outlook.
do the full outlook for spring into summer for the Northern Plains, and let you know. Are we going to have drought? Are we going to have a late plant? We'll let you know exactly how it's going to look.
All right, so let's do the outlook. What are we looking at here? Come on, man, give us. I have to make decisions whether or not I stay down here. Do I have to call Mama down here and tell her this is where we're staying all summer, or do I come back home?
Well, should we start with April? You want to break this down month by month a little bit here?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can break it down by month.
Okay.
I have pen and paper, people. Let's do this.
Okay.
Good. Yeah,
let's
write that
see.
down for me, Bridget. Make me copies because I don't have the ability here.
So
Gotcha, Kyle.
Justin's got the calendar, the LRC calendar, all made out through
Can't see it either.
through June,
Not
July.
showing anybody.
Right.
Yeah. Why don't we throw up the graphic as well, Michael? Let's do the one.
There we go.
Yeah. Let's.
So
let's
that goes
go
out
with
through
that one.
September.
So that's all the way through September. That's what we're going to be averaging throughout North Dakota. But when it comes to specific storm systems that'll be rolling through our area, what we're going to be looking for is for those big spikes. That's when the big storm systems are going to come through. And I'm not going to list out every single minor chance for storm, but I will highlight some of the areas where we're expecting maybe a bigger storm or at least potential for a larger scaled storm system to be pushing into the area. So as we wrap up March, we're kind of going through an active pattern right now, and that's one of our calendar outlooks from when we put back in December is the one that's coming through tomorrow, Wednesday night into Thursday. And then there's another little system coming in on Saturday, a little disturbance that could bring some snow. But we're expecting another big storm right around the St. Patrick's Day area. There's a chance that one might slide just to our south, has been the trend with most of the past storm systems, affecting through South Dakota, Iowa, southern Minnesota. It's just continued to get hammered. So the 16th through the 18th of March is going to be the next time frame for one of those bigger storm systems. And then we got another possible storm system that will probably go south of us the 22nd through the 24th, somewhere in that time frame. That doesn't mean it's going to be a 3-day storm, but I'm just highlighting time frames here. Another possible little system around the 26th or 27th, and one more to end the month of March. So there's about 3 main systems that we're keeping an eye on. That's the one right around St. Patrick's Day, one right at the end of the month, and one the last weekend of March as well. It'll be the 26th and the 27th.
And that correlates right with those spikes of precip that I believe go into early April.
It does.
Right,
and if we
around
wanna,
Easter.
And Michael, if you want to pull up the one just for Cass County, that kind of highlights those bands as well. So if you're looking in the bottom right corner there for March, those key storms are those bigger spikes right at the tail end of March. And as we head into April, I know people don't want to hear this. I think we're going to have a late winter, a late spring. I think we're going to have to worry about one of those classic storms in April where you get a blizzard on the backside, a severe setup on the front side in the warm sector of the storm. Where is that severe outbreak going to be? Probably likely in the Central Plains. I don't think it's going to quite reach up into here, but we'll have to worry about the backside of the storm delivering snow as we head into that second week of April. So as we switch into April, we're expecting one of those big storms to be right at the beginning, the first week of April, somewhere between probably like Gary had just said, between the 3rd and 6th. I got about the 3rd to the 5th highlighted on my calendar. Another possible system around the 9th and 10th, and then a possibly bigger storm system, which should hopefully be our last snow around the 14th, which just so happens to be my birthday.
That was the one from the 11th through the 14th. That's the major storm that hit Minneapolis with all their snow.
So and there is potential that one of those storms, if there's blocking, which has kind of been in every other cycle, we had it in cycle 2, we didn't have it in cycle 1 or 3 to that degree. Is this going to continue in an oscillating pattern? Will we get the blocking in April for cycle 4? It's a possibility. That could be an extended storm if it just sits there and lasts in our area like it did back in December. That was that 3-4 day winter storm that we had.
But does that blocking change? Because doesn't the jet stream it moves up as we progress into spring? So does that change the whole blocking thing?
So the way that the blocking works, in my experience with the LRC, it acts like an influence on the pattern. Am I right, Gary?
Yeah, what's happening right now, there's a big block forming up there, and it's really causing the influence that stretches the pattern down towards California. This is why California is getting blasted again right now, and they're going to get another one here in a few days. The block, this year's block, is causing, some blocks cause it to go due south of the block, and the northeastern United States would have had a cold, stormy winter, but it shifted southwest with this year's LRC, and that's why the southwest has been hit, and the path from Nebraska to Minneapolis is the sweet spot for the heaviest rain. So as we go into April, I'm not expecting as much blocking, but we'll have to see. If there is one, it could keep you in winter a little bit longer.
Okay, so April 9th and 10th, possible storm. We might as well just cancel Easter right now, tell the bunny not to come?
No,
you can't cancel. Well, actually, if we cancel it, we can maybe get those dang egg prices to go down. If no one's out there buying eggs, the price will go down, people.
Well, you can buy them now, but you sure ain't painting them.
Yeah, you're eating them. That's what you're doing, and you're not letting them go to waste. Let's see. I was going to go somewhere on this now.
So we're in April.
Well, for April, we should dry out that. At least for the most part, we should be drying out after that.
How are temps looking in April?
Pretty cool.
Cool, not starting to warm up until the tail end. That's also that same time period where we could see, that late frost, late freeze period, mid to maybe late April, depending on how much cold air gets dumped down behind the storm. The one thing I was going to mention, going back to that blocking, we're doing our dates here based on how long we think that this LRC cycle is. We have a really good idea. We know how long it is. But when it comes down to it, it oscillates a day or two either side of that average. So these dates, they could be off by a day, maybe two.
Sure.
You're off a day or two, several months out. Hey, some people are off by a day, 7 days out.
It doesn't matter if it's off a day or two. It's still going to happen.
Well, it is, but you can just book your flights a little longer down there in Florida.
Oh, man.
Hey, come on, keep going. I want to get to May.
All right. Well, we'll have to get to May in the next hour. But before we head over to break, to wrap up April, we should dry out after that. There's a storm or two between the 9th and 15th in that week. A couple of minor systems possible that third week in April. I guess it's technically the 4th, but between the 16th and the 22nd, those will probably go south, and we'll watch for one more storm system right at the end of April. I think it's going to hold off into early May. So we'll touch on May when we come back.
And then also we'll start responding to folks that I know you got a ton of emails, and we're probably going to get a lot of calls on this. People are going to want their personal, okay, on this date, I'm doing this, or I got this going on. And we're going to get to those.
We got to hit the holidays, too.
Side. Got to hit the holidays. We got Memorial. We got we got 4th of July. We got every Friday in summer for Jay. That's a holiday too. That's the Jay.
As long as Dean is 5 miles away, they look beautiful.
No, I changed that. It's now 10 miles. We need my Fridays being nice. All right, when we come back, the Spring Outlook Special.